Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Bible study of Psalm 124. There's a free PDF outline which you can download on our website, and there's a link down in the description. For today's outline, you'll see that we do have an author. We know who wrote Psalm 124, and our author is familiar to us. It's David, or King David of Israel and Judah. We still don't have any New Testament references back to 124, though. This one's relatively short, so that's somewhat to be expected. Our themes are pretty simple today. Well, our theme, just one. The nation of Israel was protected from their enemies by the power of God, not necessarily by national strength or military strength, but it was God's doing. And David is going to recognize that here in this psalm. And then for our definitions, the first one, the Song of Ascents. This is a song of ascent, which many people believe were the psalms that were sung by the people of Israel as they were traveling and going up the hill to Jerusalem to worship and offer sacrifices and celebrate the feast days that God prescribed in his law. We do have a definition or word to define here that is one that I had to look up for myself, and that's the word fowler. Can't say I've used this one in recent history. A fowler is just a bird hunter. So you'll see how that comes into play on page number 2. So let's take a look at our 8 verses today. I've entitled them, "The Lord Preserves Israel from Their Enemies." David, who was a God-fearing man, he was keenly aware that without God's help, the nation of Israel wouldn't have been anything. They would have been run over long ago by their enemies. Their success and their longevity was a product of God's help. David didn't want his people to forget this fact, and so he wrote this psalm to remind them, and he told them to repeat after him in saying this phrase, quote, "If it had not been the Lord who was on our side when people rose up against us, then they would have swallowed us up alive." God was like a dam. He acted like a dam that held back their enemies from flooding over them. They would have been like prey in the mouth of a predator if God hadn't been with them, but instead, since he was, they were like a bird that had managed to escape from a fowler or a bird hunter's snare. And David concludes the psalm this way in the final verse in verse 8, quote, "Our help is in the name of the Lord who made heaven and earth." So that's chapter 124, and let's talk about our application as we finish up today. David, you notice here that he didn't want to worship God just by himself, didn't want to worship God alone. He wanted the people around him to worship as well. He knew that his nation would be better off the more people recognized how much God had done for them and honored him for that. The application is that our faith shouldn't be something that begins and ends with us. We should be looking for ways to strengthen the faith of others as well. Sometimes it's easy just to think, well, I'm taking care of myself. I'm doing what God's asking me to do. I'm trying to live a righteous life, and everyone else is kind of on their own. But that's not the way that it should be. Now, obviously, we can't force our faith on other people, but we can be encouragers and assistants to other people's faith and other people's walk with the Lord. And this is one of the reasons that the community of the church is so important. Within the church, we give encouragement to others, and we also receive encouragement from others on our collective journey to heaven.